folks, welcome back to WarThunder. So today's video is basically going to be going over my first impressions of the Mirage 2000 in SimEC. When I first started making this video, that was my sole intention, but since then, before uploading it, they've announced the F-16, the Tornado and the MiG-29. The Tomcat and the Mirage that we already have in game kind of fit quite well in with those things. Maybe not so much the Tomcat, but the Mirage definitely. The Tornado not so much either actually. The Tornado and the Tomcat are kind of like, they've got more of one purpose. The Tomcat is more range based. Yeah, it can dogfight, but I don't think it's going to dogfight. It's not going to compete as well with the MiG-29 and the F-16 and stuff like that, just because of its thrust to weight. And the Tornado is basically a ground attack aircraft. So yeah, and it's a bit cruel of Guardian to add it in the same patch as the MiG-29, where Britain actually lost a Tornado to a MiG-29 in the first Gulf War. It's a bit evil to be like, hey look, we'll add the Tornado, we'll also add the thing that killed it. So my predictions for the patch are that the MiG-29 is going to be the dominant aircraft, but the F-16 will be the most played because obviously American mains are the most prominent of the whole game. So there'll be a lot of Vipers around, but I think the MiG would be a more difficult opponent. Mainly because it has range, which the F-16 won't, and it's also a good dogfighter. If it gets the R-73s with Hobbs capability as well, then even more so, it will just absolutely dominate everything. It'll be the best thing at range, and it will also be the best thing up close, because it will have the highest off-bore sight of any missile by a lot, and it'll have the nose authority to make use of it, plus ridiculous acceleration and climb rate. So in the background, just kind of massacring everything with guns. The Mirage 2000 in the current top tier meta is the only jet that I think I've ever flown since the missile meta became how WarThunder works at top tier, where after I've run out of missiles, I won't go back to land, because if you get close enough to stuff, you don't need them. The missiles for the Mirage, for me at least, they're more of a way of dealing with multiple targets at once in less time, because you can just fire one off and they'll die, and then you can go and focus on someone else. So if you've been attacked by more than one person, you can missile one and then focus your attention on the other. If it's one-on-one, I have no issue at all gun killing literally anything, and it's not even particularly difficult. This clip you're watching in the background right now, I uploaded it as a short, and I put it on Reddit as well. I get jumped by two MiG-23s, so I'm defensive from the start against both of them. And turning this around and killing them both isn't even difficult, because this thing can just point its nose regardless of speed, and it doesn't care. And it has so much thrust, and this is all stock performance, by the way. I think towards the end I get one of the tier 2 performance mods, but just because I had to get to the tier 3 weapons. I just ran through the weapons first and left everything else. Because you just don't need performance when it's already this good stock. I can't even imagine how cracked it's going to be when it's actually spaded. So yeah, two MiG-23s down in a matter of a minute and a half, maybe not even that. No issue whatsoever. I think the Mirage 2000 might actually be a better counter to the MiG-29 than the F-16 will be. At least when they've got missiles. If it came to guns only and 1v1s, the F-16 is going to probably shit on everything. But at the minute, the Mirage's flight model is just pure fantasy. It doesn't stall. In DCS, many of you that follow the channel will know that I'm quite well versed in the Mirage 2000 in DCS. And granted, it's not the same model, but I think it gives us a good enough baseline to work with to understand the general airframe's characteristics and abilities. Below 200 knots in the Mirage 2000, you should have to nose up like quite a bit and use quite a lot of thrust. And look at this, like right now, in this dogfight my speed gets below 150 knots and I'm able to hold the nose level and even pull up into this guy, and it's not a problem at all. And in other clips that you'll see later, I end up in like a 90-degree vertical climb at like 50 knots and I still have enough nose authority to point at things. And it just shouldn't be possible. Of course, it's aided by the fact that nobody really knows how to dogfight, and they will consistently reverse their turn in front of me and just give me a gunshot. If you reverse your turn in front of a Mirage, all you're doing is letting it get closer to you a lot quicker than it would otherwise. You're playing into its hand, basically. To beat a Mirage, you need to keep consistently turning in the same direction, because it can't rate fight anywhere near as well as it can nose position fight or one circle fight. This is that bit I was talking about earlier, look. So right now I'm in a 60-degree nose up attitude, and he's climbing up. So I roll over and then pull up again to a 90+ degree, and look, my speed is like 50 knots, 49, 45 it got as low as. It's just broken. It's absolutely broken. I'm yet to find someone that gives me a challenge in this thing. I'd be quite interested in fighting a Viper when it gets added and see if it can actually rate fight as it should. What I'm concerned about a little bit is that if the MiG-29 and the Viper's performance is as better as the real life counterpart as the Mirage 2000's performance is, the game's going to be broken, because especially if they remain at the BR levels that they're at, nothing will be able to touch them. Like, Phantoms are a joke opponent, MiG-23s are a joke opponent for jets of Gen 4 in general, let alone when their performance is cracked. It's like the Mirage 2000 against this thing. He is quite rightly trying to climb above my nose, because that is how you would defeat a Mirage in general, but in WarThunder that just doesn't work, because all you need to do is pull back stick, and even if you're like sub 200 knots, it just doesn't matter. I'm diving for speed right now, not because I actually need it, but because I want to close the gap. I want to make him do something different. I want to bring him down to me, just so it doesn't take me as long to kill him. So he just went in a massive dive, and he's converted all that speed into altitude. I'm at like 350 knots. I'm not pulling him into the hood, I'm not pointing my nose at him, because I'm trying to retain as much of that energy as possible so I can follow him up. But the Mirage is thrust away when you're on like half fuel or less, is above 1.0, so it can stand on its engine basically. It can accelerate upwards like a rocket does, and nothing else until we get the Viper and the MiG-29. Nothing else can do that. So it will actually be quite interesting to see how they all fare against each other. The Tornado, as excited as I am for that, because obviously I am British, I can't really think of a game that has a sim component that's ever had a Tornado in it, at least not that I'm aware of. So flying one with, I don't really want to say a proper flight model, but not an Ace Combat arcade as fuck flight model is something that I'm quite excited about. But do I think it's going to be effective in game? No. Hell no. They're adding it at a time where it's, if they added it like 2 patches ago, it would have been amazing. But even now it's being added, the Harrier GR7 can already do everything it can do, and probably better. The Tornado is basically just fast. It's just a fast Harrier. That's it. That's all it can do. That's all it offers. So the Mirage 2000 then. Getting more into the actual nitty gritty of this video. As you can see right now, there's a bug with the hood. So I don't have a gun sight right now, and I'm having to use my velocity vector, which works as a gun sight because Guardian don't know what they are for or how they're supposed to work. So, it works out alright. But you can see that the lock symbology for the magics was stuck on my screen. Obviously when you run out of missiles, that should not be there. Maybe they'll fix that at some point. Maybe they'll throw some new jets at us instead and hope that we don't notice. And I guess that for 99% of the people who played the game, it doesn't matter, because they only ever see the plane from the outside. In fact, that's just made me think, I wonder if they'll add radar gun sights with this patch, because we used to have them a way back, so we know that the game code can support it actually really well. And the MiG-29 and the F-16 absolutely, and the F-14 as well, absolutely have radar gun sights. Even the Mirage does, but it's a bit shittier than those other ones, based on my experience in DCS at least. Anyway, my spider sensors were tingling. I look behind me and I get an AIM-9L fired at me by a Harrier. I managed to spot him and point my nose at him and shoot him in the wing. The nose authority on the Mirage means that you can basically get really, really low in a nose down attitude and pull out of the dive at the very last second without having to worry about crashing. Like in any other plane, I'd have probably just decked it just then. And then even after losing all the speed turning around, I'm able to just point my nose at him. I don't think he was expecting me to come around that quick, so he was a bit late on his flares. Kafir comes in, misses. And because he's so fast, he just races around us. I'm not going to waste a missile because I know it's not going to hit this aspect. And it is only magic 1s, I haven't got magic 2s or the 530s yet at this point. He won circles with me from a higher speed, so I'm obviously going to have a tighter turn circle, and I do get pretty lucky with that shot there. He spins out that low, he's not going to recover. And then deja vu, same thing happens again with the Phantom, but instead of turning with me, he just booms through, which is obviously the smarter way to do things, but he makes the mistake of assuming that I'm not going to chase him down, which I do. It takes me a while, but we eventually catch up to him. He tries to climb away from me, which is just never going to work. When he stalls out, I stall out on purpose by coming off the throttle on top of him, and this happens. And you may have just seen an F5 fly across our screen. These freezes you keep seeing, by the way, is some sort of bug that's happening in Sim right now. It's not my system, everyone was having it. A lot of people quit as a result of it. So after killing the Phantom, we go and find the F5. I don't have the G suit yet, and my crew is kind of shit. At high speed, chasing people down, trying to maneuver onto them and kill them with guns is actually really difficult, because if they pull any amount of Gs whatsoever, at this speed I just block out straight away. So I'm having to go into like an exaggerated lag pursuit just so I don't block out, and you can see it's already starting to happen. I'm not even pulling that hard. So I need to get him to, he needs to keep turning, he needs to get slow so that I can get slow, and then I can keep pointing my nose at him without having to worry about blocking out. But as long as he keeps extending away, that's not going to happen. So I'm having to guess where he's going to end up, point my nose ahead of him so that I have to keep turning, and then just fly until I close the gap. And it's working to an extent, but the F5 is broken in the sense that it has ridiculously unrealistic energy retention. It's able to like get up to above Mach 1 and then just full backstick and just rotate around in a circle at like 0.9 Mach, which is just absolute bullshit. Like, it's impossible. And because of that, it takes me ages to kill him. This is probably the one plane I've struggled the most with. Now I've got a G suit, things might be different, but I've not really played the game much since unlocking it, so I'll have to maybe do another video and report back on it with spaded performance. But he keeps turning with me instead of running away. Like, if he just kept in the rate fight instead of turning his nose trying to get a gunshot. I don't actually know how I missed that, by the way, please pretend that didn't happen. But he just plays it wrong. He could have probably killed me if he'd maintained speed and kept rating around me, but in WarThunder people don't understand that reversing the turn just means that you're giving people a free shot at you, basically. So I stack high here, and he doesn't seem to have seen what I did. He lost burst, so he ends up turning around and just giving me a 6, and I just fall right in on him. He's extremely slow at this point, so I can pull full back stick and not worry about blocking out. And then I actually really love the damage models in WarThunder. That just looks fucking awesome, doesn't it? In DCS, when you get a gun kill, it's quite unsatisfying because it just looks fucking shit. Flames that hover next to the plane instead of coming out of it, and all the particle effects, they literally look like copy and pasted like crisps that just fly through the air. It looks absolutely shit. When I was grinding it at first, for some reason it didn't occur to me that the Mirage is more than an equal for the Tomcat. I'm used to flying the F1, which is not even remotely an equal to the Tomcat, at least not in dogfighting terms. So I purposely picked servers that didn't have me fighting Tomcats, but then I realised, hang on a minute, I'm in a plane that can quite easily shit on Tomcats, especially the A model. So these last 3 clips are me encountering Tomcats for the first time, basically. So here we've got one spamming Phoenixes off at me in the distance, so I'm just going to turn cold and get low and wait for them to lose track, which doesn't take too long. I'm not even sure if he knew what he was shooting them at, because he's still shooting them off at something else, but they're not coming after me anymore. And because he's still shooting them off, I'm able to just follow the tracks back to him, which is, you know, fairly easy to do. I still don't have the G-suit, so I'm trying not to pull hard enough to block out so I don't lose Viz, but in not pulling hard enough I go into the clouds and nearly lose Viz anyway, so I might as well have probably just pulled him into the hood and he might be dead by now. I'm having to do these really wide rate style turns, like sustained turns, just to stop the blackout from happening. I'm holding off just enough that the G doesn't build too high, and he just tries to run away, which is, in fairness, the best chance he has, to be honest, because if you get into a turn fight, at least if you the sort of person that doesn't understand what a reversal queue is and consistently does it wrong, then you are just going to give yourself, you're just feeding kills to the Mirage at this point. I don't know if he knew where I was, so that wasn't really a very difficult kill. Although, I haven't actually had a difficult kill in the Mirage yet, because it's just that good. And people who I encounter are just that clueless. Like the standard of play is not very high in this game. So here's another Tomcat. We go head on merge. Definitely knows I'm here because he's trying to shoot missiles at me. I'm guessing that must have been a Sparrow because I don't think his AIM-9s have all aspect capability. And here I'm quite quick, and it means that I can't just pull him into the hood. He's very slow, so he is able to turn around faster at this point, but I don't know what he's doing here. Like, I don't know. I honestly have no idea. Is he trying to run away? Has he lost viz? What's going on? He hasn't lost viz because he's flaring. So he just gave me a 6 for... You see what I mean? I'm really happy I killed this guy because he's one of those absolute idiots that flies around with their fucking canopy open to be able to hear things better. Which literally makes me want to pull out my own eyeballs with a melon baller because holy fuck. You're playing a sim... I mean, okay, it's not strictly a sim, but it's a sim version of the game, yeah? So, at least try and make it somewhat more realistic than RB. I wish they'd remove the sound difference between the cockpit being open and closed, or at least make it actually rip off, because holy shit, it just looks stupid as fuck. And I know I shouldn't care that much, but it just winds me up. This is the last clip, and the reason I've left it in is because this Super 530 that I fire at this guy, the D version, has a fly time of something like 30 seconds. And I really wasn't expecting it to hit him still. But in DCS, they're absolutely insane missiles with ridiculous performance. The kinematic performance outlasts the battery life of the missile. And I wanted to see if it compared. And whilst it doesn't, the missile in DCS would have killed him ages ago. For WarThunder, it's impressive. It's probably one of the better Fox ones that I've used. But anyway, folks, that's the end of the video. So if you want to see more, then like and subscribe and all that stuff. I will attempt to cover the new stuff when it gets added, but I'm not part of the partnership program, so I'm going to have to grind it out, which I'm not mad keen on, to be honest. So it depends on how the recent economy change to sim fucks or unfucks how well I play this game, because I was actually making silver playing the Mirage 2000 quite well actually as well, which is rare because it's usually impossible. But then they changed how you accrue silver lines, and they changed it to suit the way that you accrue RP, which is on a time-based system based on your activity every 15 minutes or something, rather than what you actually do. So it might cripple my in-game finances to the point where I can't be arsed. But we'll see. Thanks a lot for watching, and I will keep you in the loop in the community page, so keep an eye on that, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers.